Human types, libidinem. The best way to describe the psychosis-hylomorphism or energy type identified as libidinem would be as a partiality or bias towards enjoyment and luxury. Of course, this sounds somewhat vague and universal, so it is important to understand that bias towards play and luxury means that it often comes at the expense of pretty much everything else. A needy and hedonistic kind of energy that tends to become impulsive spenders and consumers. This energy is usually regarded as the most feminine, but I think it should be regarded as a mixture of the feminine principle with the child principle. Libidinem is a bit too selfish and irresponsible to be regarded as a truly social type. They seem to care and be the most loving type of all, but that is mainly because they are simply less inhibited in their emotional expressions. Whether they actually care is difficult to tell, since they tend to fool themselves just as much as they fool others, and love to them usually means fancy things and enjoyment, a kind of superficial and excessive love. Another reason why the child principle is more appropriate is because libidinal men don't behave like women, or at least does not come across as feminine. The orientation towards fun and consumption leads to a tendency to take part in whatever is the cultural zeitgeist or cultural energy, and can equally lead to them taking part in an angry mob, as in a wild party. Libidinem means pleasure, fancy, caprice, and similar things that refers to this kind of pattern. An alternative name for the instinct is luxuriam, which means luxury or extravagance.
So you are the youngest fashion designer in the country, is what I hear.
Yes, I am the youngest.
And you got your first sewing machine at age 6?
Yes, I did get my first sewing machine at age 6 after begging for like a year.
Looking at its position on the conceptual map, the tool we use to make it easier to remember the context, relation and nature of these character phenomena, we see that libidinem is located in the gratum sphere at the right minus column. Since the middle sphere of gratum represents motion and still dominates in this energy, libidinem, being motion minus, can thus be said to be the reflection of the lower sphere in the middle sphere. In other words, a mixture of gratum and morem, or if you prefer, of urbanum and exirium. But since libidinem is located in the gratum sphere and is primarily a gratum type, it is closer to urbanum than to exirium and can be considered a modified urbanum. The effect is mostly that libidinem becomes more desensitized and less socially careful than urbanum. Hence the presence of more impulsiveness, craziness, laziness, drama and selfishness in libidinem.
When a man loves a woman, he has to show her.
There is something about the combination of the environment-focused gratum energy and the desensitized morem energy that seem to make libidinem the least self-aware type, lacking a realistic assessment. And this often leads to a tendency to be naive in regards to what can be expected of themselves and the world. In other words, they tend to overestimate their own importance or talents, as well as how much the world is prepared to accommodate them. They start off desensitized, with an attitude of there being no problems, eager to do and take part in things, and naively assume things will go well and be pleasant. But they often end up shocked, indignant and angry at the world for not living up to expectations. To the outside world, this often comes across as entitlement, arrogance or narcissism. But the experience of the libidinem is more likely to be that of unexpected disappointment and having been naive. So if you accuse a libidinem of acting entitled, they will probably not feel like that is what they are. And it will often take multiple disappointments before they wake up to reality. Their expectations are often based on the environment, on what they've seen in movies and in advertising, and they seem to be the most easily hypnotized type when it comes to cultural fashions. I have talked about how the gratum sphere can be regarded as needy because of social concerns and anxiety, but the actual word needy is not often used to describe these types. Instead, the neediness in misericordem is usually called oversensitivity or victimhood, while in urbanum it is mainly perceived as a kind of obsession with performing well and keeping the mood up. And in Libidinem, the neediness is more often regarded as a kind of entitlement or diva-like narcissism. Libidinem wants to fit in and be pleasing like urbanum types, but is also drawn to independence and rebellion like excidium types. However, since they have more difficulty leaving the social realm behind than excidium, they tend to become covert rebels who may act good and proper socially, but is secretly a rebel out to get their own way. And this leads to a lot of manipulation, secrecy, and lying.
The first day I went into the agency, I told my first little white lie, and then that lie just sort of grew. I never thought that anyone would know what I was doing.
Really?
Yeah, I never thought that they would know. I thought that it was just my secret.
So just like with abstractum or excidium, libidinem can be quite independent and stubborn, and will not be open about their needs in order to avoid ending up in a dependent situation. Yet people in their surrounding will often start to notice how they never remain satisfied with what they have. So it is also common for people to regard libidinem as the most needy type, since they are less shy about their desires than misericordam, who more often hold back self-expression.
We always sort of thought, we're not really joking. We really think we are the best band. And now, there's no question about it, we're the best band.
It is a bit easier for libidinem men to embrace being a rebel more directly, since antisocial behavior is generally more accepted in men than in women. But libidinem women are drawn to wild behavior, and so they may be attracted to the energy of animals and children, or writing love letters to men in jail. Out of all the types that are not morem types, libidinem is the closest to being a morem type, and it is possible that some of them may even identify more with the sensory morem sphere, since a lot of them enjoy physical activity, sports, traveling, and of course horse riding. A lot of girls who are into horses tend to be libidinem. But because of their softer features and childlike qualities, they can also be confused with sapientium types, especially if they wear glasses and play video games. Libidinem is often adventurous and can be found in all kinds of places and subcultures. But they don't like to have their freedom or options limited, although they themselves may not be aware of this, since they tend to be somewhat disconnected from the truth about themselves. I recently listened to the first album by Ace of Base again, Happy Nation, and the lyrics to those early songs really sound like they were written by libidinem types. I'm pretty sure all the original members of that band were libidinem. But this is libidinem with excidium in their configuration. These are libidinems who may enjoy sex for its own sake and choose to become a porn star or similar.
I just went to an agent and said to him, I want to be a porn actress because I like it. It was a little bit my dream to try it.
Other libidinem types mostly use sex as a means to get something else, and are not so much actually interested in or enjoy the sex, which makes me believe that excidium is more purely a sexual instinct. Having corpus in the configuration makes them more sensitive and touchy-feely due to the increased influence from the gratum sphere, especially in combination with magnitudinem. It also makes them more similar to the mother archetype, and often wants to feel needed by taking care of others. With meritum in the configuration, they have more ambitions and often become leaders, preachers, or coaches, and might identify with urbanum, meritum, or excidium. Saint Bridget of Sweden seemed to have been an extreme version of this type. Abstractum makes them more toned down, fiducia makes them more open-minded, and magnitudinem makes them more judgmental or resentful. So the spiritual problem for libidinem tends to be the lack of a sense of limits, what people generally call entitlement, as well as neediness, materialism, impatience, being fickle and easily falling in love with things, losing themselves in other people's emotions and merging into group mobs, and lack of self-control that creates too much reactivity and impulsive decisions. The spiritual strength is placing a high value on love and festivity, a childlike innocence in their naivety and desire to enjoy life, their open-heartedness, and the aliveness of their emotions and spontaneous self-expressions.